CPS took both of our children. The first because of a faulty medical diagnosis, the second because we were under investigation for the first. But you can help us change that.
How?
This is Rebecca and Adrian Henderson, loving parents of two beautiful children, Ivy and Nico, both of whom were taken by CPS. But their story isn't over. In fact, there are two ways for you to change the ending. But more on that later.
Like, I woke up and I felt my water break, and I told him, Adrian, wake up.
I never woke up faster. I jumped out of bed, I threw some clothes on, and I don't know how the process worked, so I didn't want like a baby flying out of her while she's on the way in the hospital, so.
Since my water broke, I was in labor for, I would say, 15 hours.
Yeah, it was like half a day. I think she didn't dilate over, 4 centimeters.
So then they had said that Ivy's temperature was going up and mine was going up as well, so they recommended that we would have to do a C-section.
And from there, it was just an experience. It was,
I wasn't numbed all the way. They mostly numbed my legs instead of my torso. It was just a bunch of tugging. When they were tugging her out, her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck. She was stuck in there pretty good. They were tugging and tugging. They had asked if I wanted to be put under because of how much pain I was looking like I was in. And I said I wanted to hear her cry. I told them, let me hear her cry and let me see her face, and then yeah.
And so Ivy Henderson was born, but the Hendersons' newfound peace and tranquility was short-lived. 6 weeks later, the family's world was thrown into chaos. The perpetrator? A single red mark.
I picked her up. It looked like a fresh rash. That's what it appeared to be. I woke back up. I was like, "What's this? What's on her face?"
Then I took the picture. I sent it to my mom.
She called me and said, "Mom, there's something wrong with Ivy's face," and she was a little concerned. And I said, "Well, I'll be home in a little bit. Let me look at her when I get there."
Then it started spreading a little bit to her nose.
But it was progressively spreading, fast.
Yeah.
She called me maybe like 30 minutes later, and I said, "Well, it's gotten worse. I think there's something wrong. I want to take her in."
So we immediately took her, loaded her up into the car, took her.
That decision, the decision to care for her daughter, that was the beginning of a year-long nightmare. When the parents arrived at the hospital, they were greeted by a team of nurses. For hours, no doctor ever saw them. One of the nurses came and took a photo of Ivy's face. After 30 to 60 minutes, she came back.
The nurse that we originally saw came back in and said we would like to do x-rays and a CT to see if there's underlying conditions, she said.
Really? I thought we were dealing with a skin condition. If this is a skin condition, why are they asking for a CT scan? Realistically, there is only one reason for them to ask for that at this point. They suspected abuse. This is Brad Scalis, the attorney that represents Rebecca.
Yeah, they definitely suspect abuse, but they're looking for other evidence of abuse, and that's why they're doing a scan.
Did the hospital do anything to investigate an alternative explanation to birth?
Well, we looked through all the medical records, and I didn't see anything except for take pictures.
According to the medical records, a diagnosis hadn't even been made yet. It wasn't until after the scans that they entered a diagnosis.
As far as what we could see in the records, they just automatically assumed the skin lesion was a burn.
We know it wasn't a burn because, one, there wasn't any hot things in the room. And I said, it's not a burn. Have you examined her? Have you swabbed her cheek? Have you done anything to figure out if it's a burn or not, other than taking a picture?
It's like if you're gonna tell me that I burned my child, then you better be 100% sure that this is a burn.
Yeah.
No doctor or dermatologist had physically examined her. That being said, they were adamant that it had to be a burn.
If it was a burn, let's say you guys say it was a burn, how is a burn gonna spread from here to the nose? How? Explain that. And anybody explain that.
This whole ordeal could have been avoided if a dermatologist had just walked down and looked at Ivy's skin. No one ever explained how a burn could even be formed in that spot. It couldn't have been a hot liquid because there was no splashing on her neck or shoulders, and it didn't match the pattern or the sharp edges of any household object you could imagine. But there was another explanation. The actual diagnosis from the hospital said that it could be a burn or a caustic irritation.
Caustic irritation, as far as I understand it, it's a normal reaction that you could have to any kind of product that you have in your home.
The baby's skin is so sensitive that reactions can come from hundreds of different everyday objects, like clothing, cleaning products, you name it.
The hospital did list that as a differential diagnosis, but I don't believe we saw anything in the medical records that showed that they explored that any further.
Instead, they locked in on burn, and they demanded that the family explain how this burn could have occurred.
He wasn't asking us, he was more like interrogating us. We don't know what's going on with our daughter, so how are we supposed to explain it to you?
The family couldn't explain why there was a burn because there actually wasn't a burn.
Later down the line, after us subpoenaing the records and getting the records ourselves, we find out that she has infantile atopic dermatitis.
Infantile atopic dermatitis, a skin condition that makes baby's skin extra sensitive and produces skin irritations that can be similar to the one Ivy had on her face.
I think that could have been something they might have been at least looked at a little bit, but we have no evidence that they did.
CPS seems to have started from the assumption of child abuse. Because of that, suddenly everything was child abuse. It wasn't until that afternoon, after the MRI had been conducted, and after they'd accused the family of burning Ivy, that a doctor finally arrived to physically inspect her.
The doctor had said, okay, so we have concerns of fractures in your daughter's legs.
These weren't leg-shattering fractures. In fact, they were barely fractures at all.
They're not what you, again, typically think of as far as fractures go, where it's like a break and they're displaced.
They're asymptomatic fractures in the femur. Asymptomatic meaning that you couldn't find it on a physical examination of Ivy like you would expect. You can't find it because Ivy wasn't exhibiting any type of normal pain responses.
The parents took Ivy regularly before Ivy was removed from them to their pediatrician, and that pediatrician never suspected that there might be any type of fractures.
So I started asking them, okay, how can that happen? Also, her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck. They were tugging and tugging.
Oh yeah, that. This 2023 study found that one type of asymptomatic fracture in infants that is often linked to C-sections is a fracture in the femur. The study even states birth injuries should always be considered in the forensic medical assessment of fractures in early infancy. But in Ivy's case, it wasn't. The medical records show no sign the doctors even considered it, not because it wasn't likely, but because they'd already decided what they believed had happened.
They just immediately started accusing them.
Yeah, they definitely looked at us like monsters.
From our perspective, I mean, the truth wasn't hidden. It just wasn't really investigated or even contemplated.
In addition to ignoring the general science, Ivy specifically was found to have multiple distinct risk factors for poor bone health, making the birth trauma theory even more probable. But again, the doctors never investigated a single one of them.
They kept sending in the investigator. He kept saying, why does your daughter have a burn on her face? Who burned her? And I said, it's not a burn. It cannot be a burn. And if somebody would come and examine her, maybe we could all figure out what's going on with her face.
For this whole process, we had asked for a dermatologist.
Yes.
Within the week, CPS removed Ivy from her parents. By that time, the parents had asked for a dermatologist between 20 and 30 times. None ever came.
Okay, now everything's gonna be through the courts, and you're no longer gonna be able to see her. And it was a very terrible feeling to be told that we would no longer be able to see our daughter.
The visits that we get is 15 minutes. On their 2-hour visit, we can get 15 minutes once a week.
You know, she, for a while, she had lost her bond with us. She didn't know who I was. She didn't know who she was. She only knew the person that she had been with for the past 6 months.
As far as you're aware, why did CPS take Nico away as well?
You might remember Nico, Rebecca and Adrian's second child. At just 3 days old, he was taken too.
Essentially, CPS said, because you can't have Ivy in your care, you can't have Nico in your care.
To them, it's you're guilty until proven innocent, and right now we still haven't been proven innocent.
That brings us to today. By the time of the hearing, it will have been nearly a year since Ivy's removal, and the entire thing was avoidable. It all started because the hospital made a mistake. They assumed that a mark on Ivy's skin was a child abuse-related burn. Because they did that, every other problem was assumed to be child abuse. Taking Nico is a perfect example. CPS took him not because of something the parents had done, but because of their own mistake.
What CPS has done isn't a victimless crime. No parent should ever have to go through this.
We've lost a whole year of seeing Ivy grow up. I haven't seen her walk. I didn't see her crawl.
CPS is supposed to protect children. Here, it's protecting itself, and that's one of the reasons why this case is dragging on. Now, the hearing is set for October 22nd, 2025.
We're here, and we're going to continue to be here because we did nothing wrong. Ivy will come home, and we won't stop fighting. Never stop fighting. Keep your faith, and
Keep fighting.
keep fighting.
Don't let them win.
At the Family Freedom Project, we are standing with the Hendersons. We're funding medical experts, we're preparing strategy for their case, but we can't do it alone.
Every time we go to court, it's just us, and then it's an army of lawyers and CPS people that all come in, and
To attack us.
it's just hard. But when you guys said, you could possibly help, it's a big blessing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can change the ending of their story. Here are 2 ways that you can do it. The first is to donate. Funding a defense is incredibly important, but it's never cheap. If you aren't financially able, that's okay. The second way is free. Share this video. It takes 15 seconds, costs nothing, but it puts real pressure on the system to do what's right. However you choose to help, thank you. Because you're not just standing with the Hendersons, you're standing with every family who, thanks to you, won't have to endure what they're going through.